The White House in crisis. Judgment Day. Bill Clinton on videotape before the grand jury. For 4.5 hours, Ken Starr's prosecutors interrogate the president about Monica Lewinsky.
Did I want this to come out? No. Was I embarrassed about it? Yes. Did I ask her to lie about it? No.
More evidence made public. New White House photos of Monica and the president, thousands of pages, her private letters about the president, her words about their relationship. And America reacts, a country embarrassed for its president, a shame for the presidency.
The White House crisis. This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Reporting tonight from Washington.
Good evening. Tonight, the president, his political and legal adversaries, his fellow Democrats, commentators, and American citizens, east and west, north and south, are trying to determine, where do we go from here? They've now all witnessed the president on videotape being asked in great detail about the sexual nature of his relationship with Monica Lewinsky, whether he lied or obstructed justice to mislead prosecutors. They have 2 thick volumes of other testimony and documents to consider as Ken Starr and the Republican members of the House Judiciary Committee make their best case against the president. Did this move the country closer to impeachment or presidential resignation, or did it help the president? We begin with the videotape aired today, but recorded at the White House August 17th.
When I was alone with Miss Lewinsky, on certain occasions in early 1996 and once in early 1997, I engaged in conduct that was wrong. These encounters did not consist of sexual intercourse. They did not constitute sexual relations as I understood that term to be defined at my January 17, 1998 deposition. But they did involve inappropriate, intimate contact. So I will admit this, sir. My goal in this deposition was to be truthful, but not particularly helpful. I did not wish to do the work of the Jones lawyers. I deplored what they were doing. I deplored the innocent people they were tormenting and traumatizing.
You mentioned that you discussed her subpoena in the Paula Jones case.
She raised the issue with me in the context of her desire to avoid testifying, which I certainly understood, not only because there were some embarrassing facts about our relationship that were inappropriate, but also because a whole lot of innocent people were being traumatized and dragged through the mud by these Jones lawyers with their dragnet strategy. She said, well, what if they ask me about the gifts you have given me? And I said, well, if you get a request to produce those, you have to give them whatever you have.
After you gave her the gifts on December 28th, did you speak with your secretary, Ms. Curry, and ask her to pick up a box of gifts that were some compilation of gifts that Ms. Lewinsky would have?
No, sir, I didn't do that. I did not do that.
The statement of your attorney, Mr. Bennett, at Paula Jones' deposition, the statement that there was no sex of any kind, in any manner, shape, or form with President Clinton, was an utterly false statement. Is that correct?
It depends upon what the meaning of the word is. Yes. If is means is and never has been, that is not that's one thing. If it means there is none, that was a completely true statement.
Let me ask you, Mr. President, you indicate in your statement that you were alone with Ms. Lewinsky. Is that right?
We think there were 9 or 10 times when she was in the White House, when I was in the Oval Office, when I could have seen her. I do not believe I saw her that many times, but I could have. Did I want this to come out? No. Was I embarrassed about it? Yes. Did I ask her to lie about it? No. Did I believe there could be a truthful affidavit? Absolutely. I didn't order her to be hired at the White House. I could have done so. I wouldn't do it. She's basically a good girl. She's a good young woman with a good heart and a good mind. I think she is burdened by some unfortunate conditions of her upbringing. But she's basically a good person. But I knew that the minute there was no longer any contact, she would talk about this. She would have to. She couldn't help it. It was a part of her psyche. So I had put myself at risk, sir. I was not trying to buy her silence or get Vernon Jordan to buy her silence.
Throughout tonight's broadcast, of course, you'll be seeing a lot more of that videotape. We should point out what you will not be seeing. The prosecutors, Kenneth Starr, and 3 lawyers from the Office of Independent Counsel. The members of the prosecution team are Jackie Bennett, who is Starr's chief deputy, former Maryland prosecutor and Whitewater investigator Robert Bittman, and Solomon Weisenberg, a former Texas federal prosecutor who has spent the most time with the Washington grand jury. The president's poll ratings, of course, have been a mixed judgment going into this extraordinary session. Job approval rating remains high, but his moral and character standing has plummeted. In some surveys, the number of those favoring resignation, that has been rising. Tonight, NBC's Jim Avila sampled some of the reaction to the president's appearance today.
America watched all right. Frankly, there was little choice. Millions of TVs, every major network and news channel pumping out the same image. A program many viewers labeled just sad. The humbling of a president in plain sight from a Miami steakhouse.
I think it's an embarrassment to the country. I think he's an embarrassment to the country.
To a health club in Southern California.
I think people are enamored by gossip, celebrity, and he's the ultimate celebrity.
A TV culture compelled to watch a program many did not want to see. A country embarrassed for and by its president.
He looks totally stressed out. Now he's getting his composure.
In Chicago, lifelong committed Democrats Robin Stanton and Holly Hornlein woke up early to see what they now call a fallen political hero.
Unfortunately, I think I'm seeing a man who's trying to save his job and save his reputation and save his place in history at the expense of truth. How does a Rhodes Scholar not understand that oral sex is sex?
Both women had high ambitions for the Clinton presidency, believe in his programs, thought his family would be a role model for the new millennium. But now,
he has completely undermined everything they represented with this because he couldn't keep his pants zipped, basically.
As the president's 4 hours of uncomfortable explanations and apologies played on, many Americans bristled at the questions. In Stillwater, Minnesota, a small town of 13,000 along the St. Croix River, the seeds of a backlash.
It's going to spoil his being one of the best presidents we've had.
Nobody else's business, especially Ken Starr's, unless Ken Starr wants to look into his own closet.
But how did the president do? Northwestern law professor Ron Allen watched his performance with a critical eye. As a reluctant witness,
this was a model of a witness who was advised to attempt to be truthful without being forthcoming.
But a careful performance before the grand jury may look entirely different to today's national audience.
People associate in their minds evasion and lack of cooperation with deception.
Now the experts must wait to see if the president's embarrassing moments bring him painful gains or a final loss. Jim Avila, NBC News, Chicago.
And when we come back, the potential legal landmine still ahead for the president. Which parts of his testimony put him at greatest risk?
If you're using 2 products, one to kill germs and one to shine your kitchen, it can feel like you've got 2 of everything. It doesn't have to. Introducing new Windex Antibacterial Glass and Surface Cleaner. The first antibacterial that not only kills tough germs, but leaves a streak-free Windex shine. Without the film the leading antibacterial can leave behind. So why deal with 2 unless you have to?
Mom, I'm hungry.
Try new Windex Antibacterial. It's time for a germ-free shine. S.C. Johnson.
Savor the summer. Live Maine lobster, specially priced at $14.99. At Red Lobster, the season isn't over.
Dr. Scholl's next stop, San Antonio Zoo.
I want to talk to you about pain. My knees ache.
Lower back. Did you know your pain can be caused by the way you walk?
The way I walk? DynaStep insert supports your foot so that it hits the ground evenly.
I really think these would help my lower back pain.
Feels real good on these big old feet.
You've got the style, you've got the rhyme, you're breaking free, you've hit your stride, get out and play, this is your day, you're making whoopee.
You've got it handled. The quick and nimble DeVille with the North Star system.
Go for it all, having a ball now, you're making whoopee.
DeVille, for the time of your life.
The Gulf War, Tiananmen Square, the Berlin Wall. Former President George Bush talks to Matt Lauer about events from his time in office and the current state of the nation. Wednesday on Today.
Running throughout the president's testimony is one looming question. Is anything that he said, anything that he did, illegal? NBC's Pete Williams tonight takes a look at which parts of the president's story could put him in greatest jeopardy.
Legal experts disagree about whether any of the president's actions are clear-cut cases of perjury or obstruction of justice, but trouble spots crop up early in his grand jury video, beginning where he reads a statement he has prepared.
When I was alone with Miss Lewinsky, on certain occasions in early 1996 and once in early 1997, I engaged in conduct that was wrong.
That sentence alone contains two potential problems.
When I was alone with Miss Lewinsky.
By admitting he was alone in the White House with her, Mr. Clinton casts doubt on his own testimony 7 months before in the Paula Jones case. In January, Jones' lawyers asked him, "At any time were you and Monica Lewinsky together alone in the Oval Office?" And he answered, "I don't recall." The second problem, the president's statement implies that his improper relationship with Lewinsky began in 1996. She has testified it actually started earlier. And among documents released today, 4 White House pictures showing Ms. Lewinsky eating pizza with the president in November of 1995, the day she says their affair began. Another potential problem, Mr. Clinton's steadfast denial that he ever intimately touched Monica Lewinsky, insisting he did not have sexual relations with her as he defined it.
You are free to infer that my testimony is that I did not have sexual relations as I understood this term to be defined.
Including touching her breast, kissing her breast, or touching her genitalia.
That's correct.
Even though prosecutors tell him later during their questioning that she testified all those things did happen.
That is not my recollection. My recollection is that I did not have sexual relations with Ms. Lewinsky, and I'm staying on my former statement about that.
Ken Starr's prosecutors also questioned Mr. Clinton's motives for quizzing his secretary, Betty Curry, about Monica Lewinsky's visits to the White House, asking her, for example, "You were always there when she was there, right?"
What was your purpose in making these statements to Mrs. Curry if they weren't for the purpose to try to suggest to her what she should say if ever asked?
Now, Mr. Bittman, I told you, the only thing I remember is when all this stuff blew up, I was trying to figure out what the facts were. I was trying to remember. And I was trying to get the facts and trying to think of the best defense we could construct in the face of what I thought was going to be a media onslaught.
Perjury and obstruction are notoriously hard to prove. Now it's up to Congress to decide if the president was lying or just challenging the questions he obviously hated to answer. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
Joining me now from New York with more on all of this is NBC's legal analyst, Jack Ford, a former federal prosecutor. Jack, when the president raised his hand and took the oath to tell the truth and nothing but the complete truth, what was the legal peril that he faced if he did not do that?
Well, the problem, Tom, is the one of perjury that everybody's been talking about here, but there was something in it for both sides, if you would. The prosecutors got to pin him down to a version on the record and challenge that version with their questions. The president got a chance to explain things away, to explain why it is, although he is admitted to an intimate relationship, he said no to a sexual relationship under oath in the deposition. You have to remember, Tom, with perjury, if we were talking about only a criminal matter here, you would have to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's a tough thing to do when there's at least a plausible version on the other side. But here we're in the political arena, and so the standard is going to be whatever each individual member of Congress says it is when they decide in their own minds about perjury.
Jack, what about obstruction of justice? You watched all that testimony today. What struck you about that?
Tom, I think most experts would say that that's less problematic for the president. We have not only his version about what happened. He said, look, I didn't buy her off with a job. If I wanted to buy her off, I would have given her the White House job she wanted. We also saw in the material released today that Monica Lewinsky herself has said no one ever tried to get her to lie. Vernon Jordan did not offer a quid pro quo telling her, you sign this affidavit, we'll find you a job. Indeed, Monica Lewinsky said in her testimony that the president and she never even talked about hiding their relationship after she was subpoenaed for Paula Jones. They talked about it beforehand, and she said anybody would if they were involved in a relationship such as this. So I think most observers will say that the main problem for the president is going to be perjury, not as much the obstruction of justice, but again, it'll depend upon what the members of Congress think.
Thank you very much, Jack Ford, because ultimately that's where this will be resolved in impeachment proceedings if they go forward. I'll be back with a closer look at the subject at the heart of the legal and the political case against the president, sex.
Carol Johnson believes the mammogram reminder card we sent her saved her life. Carlin Skipworth believes her early colon cancer screening saved her life. If it's hard for you to believe that our long-standing commitment to preventive care and early detection actually makes a difference, we have proof, living proof. We're Aetna U.S. Healthcare, raising the quality of healthcare in America.
You're not buying one of those laxatives. It's got stimulants that may cause cramping.
Says who?
Says on the label. Phillips is the only one that doesn't. Now remember, nothing's better.
How could she forget?
Phillips, effective relief without harsh stimulants.
Enterprise? Hi, I'm at the repair shop. I need to rent a car.
Enterprise will arrange to pick you up,
This is great.
drive you to our place, and get you on your way. Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
For the 14 million women who worry about light to moderate bladder control, now there's new Double Protection Compose Panty and Pad System. The Compose Panty and Pad fit together for double protection. There's a super absorbent disposable pad, but the real difference is the separate washable panty. It gives you double protection with a quilted panel that won't let wetness through. So why worry? Get double protection with Double Protection Compose. Protection that goes beyond the pad.
Dateline Monday, they were headed for a bitter divorce, but his final act of vengeance almost destroyed her life. He torched the family home.
I was devastated. Someone ripped my heart out of my body.
And the insurance company wouldn't pay.
All you want to do is get back what was so wrongfully taken away.
A single mom fights to rebuild and protect her kids. Dateline Monday on NBC.
At the center of Mr. Clinton's testimony was what he calls inappropriate actions with Monica Lewinsky, his sexual relationship with her. Most of the questioning by Ken Starr's prosecutors focused on that, and NBC's Jim Miklashevsky tonight has more on the president's answers.
It was an extraordinary exhibition. The most private details of President Clinton's sex life played out on daytime television.
My recollection is that I did not have sexual relations with Ms. Lewinsky.
It was a defense he would rely on over and over again. But Deputy Independent Counsel Solomon Weisenberg grilled the president about his relations with Monica Lewinsky, and no detail was off limits.
If she says that you kissed her breast, would she be lying?
I'm going to revert to my former statement.
Then another question. What about specific, intimate places the president may have touched Ms. Lewinsky?
I will revert to my statement on that.
And did the president ever use inanimate objects as sexual aids?
Yes, no, or won't answer.
I will revert to my former statement.
If the president wasn't embarrassed, much of the nation was. Networks issued disclaimers about the graphic sexual content, warning parents to shield their children from the spectacle. Like President Clinton's tortured definition of what is or what isn't oral sex.
If the deponent is the person who has oral sex performed on him, then the contact is with, not with anything on that list, but with the lips of another person. It seems to me self-evident that that's what it is.
At one point, Deputy Counsel Robert Bittman tried to goad the president into admitting he's the source of the stain on Lewinsky's dress.
Is it possible or impossible that your semen is on a dress belonging to Miss Lewinsky?
I have nothing to add to my statement about it, sir. You know what the facts are.
President Clinton did make a belated confession. 6 years after he denied it, he now admits a sexual affair with Jennifer Flowers.
And I had to admit, under this definition, that I'd actually had sexual relations with Jennifer Flowers. Now, I would rather have taken a whipping than done that, after all the trouble I'd been through with Jennifer Flowers.
After today's X-rated videotape release, the question still remains. Was this an attempt to get at the truth or an effort to embarrass the president? Some of the president's own advisors are convinced tonight that it fell short on both counts. Jim Miklashevsky, NBC News, the White House.
When we come back, the other excruciating details, the documents, explicit details from Starr's investigation, thousands of pages released today, but is this more than anyone needs or wants to know?
Nobody does it like you, the way that you do. Nobody's got the power to please me.
The Hoover Steam Vac Ultra has 5 rotating brushes. Plus, it has a powered hand tool with 2 more brushes. It cleans like a whole crew of professionals. So, you know, there's really no comparison.
Hoover, nobody
Steam Vac Ultra.
does it like you.
Keep it going! Okay, that's enough!
Bayer can relieve joint inflammation and stiffness. Tylenol can't. And taken regularly, Bayer can help save your life. Ask your doctor. Bayer, powerful pain relief and so much more.
I'm 64. Is there anything I can do to stop bone loss?
Absolutely. Here's proof. In a landmark clinical study, Caltrate actually stopped bone loss in women at risk for osteoporosis, whatever your age.
It's never too late for Caltrate.
Fibercon or Metamucil, both have fiber for regularity. But I like Fibercon better.
Same natural action of fiber, but only Fibercon contains calcium.
And with Fibercon, I get my fiber in 2 caplets.
Fibercon, fiber and calcium in a convenient caplet.
At Uniroyal, in order to make a point about our new nail guard tires, we added a few to our test track. Nail guard tires, designed to seal 90% of tread punctures, instantly and permanently. Only from Uniroyal.
You're not taking that laxative. It's got stimulants that may cause cramping.
Says who?
Says on the label. Don't you know nothing's better than Phillips Milk of Magnesia?
All these overnight laxatives have stimulants that may cause cramping. Phillips doesn't. It's the only one that's stimulant-free.
And you know Phillips.
She never takes a vacation.
Phillips, effective relief without harsh stimulants. And also try convenient liquid gels.
It wasn't just the president on videotape that was released today. 2 very thick and very detailed volumes of testimony and notes from Monica Lewinsky and others. Also, photos, documents, and email. A mix of sexual discussion that leaves nothing to the imagination and exchanges that more closely resemble the theater of the absurd. Here's NBC's Lisa Myers.
The 7.5 pounds of evidence detail every aspect of the president's relationship with Lewinsky. Every nuance of the alleged cover-up. No fact is too obscure or too tawdry. There is Lewinsky's X-rated testimony with new details about the president. Emails calling him the big creep. A picture of the infamous blue dress. And the FBI lab report confirming that semen on the dress matches specimen K39, DNA from the President of the United States. And there are scores of White House documents, official pictures, records of presidential movements, phone logs, laying out some 50 phone calls between the president and Monica, as well as her 44 visits to the White House. In her testimony, Lewinsky says the president told her he had a secret life in which he struggled daily to resist his desire for women and kept a calendar on how long he had been good. Investigators say Lewinsky told them, the president has a Saturday night personality where he gives in to his sexual desires and a Sunday personality where he is remorseful and goes to church. In fact, on the tape, Clinton expresses remorse about a sexual encounter with Lewinsky in February 1997 after she brought her family to a radio address at the White House.
I was sick after it was over. I was pleased that at that time it had been nearly a year since any inappropriate contact had occurred with Ms. Lewinsky. I promised myself it wasn't going to happen again.
Lewinsky says when the president dumped her the following May, she called it D-Day, Dump Day, he told her he'd been with hundreds of women. She also claims he told her that he'd been two people since 3rd or 4th grade, the good boy at home, but leading a secret life and telling stories elsewhere. That same day, Lewinsky said she reminded the president that other presidents have had girlfriends, but he said he didn't want to be like that and didn't want his daughter Chelsea to ever know about the affair. While the breakup hurt, Lewinsky appears even more wounded by the president's speech just last month, in which he felt he made the relationship sound like, quote, a service contract, that all I did was perform sex on him, and it was a lot more than that to me. What the president apparently didn't know was that Lewinsky kept meticulous records, noting every call and visit on her calendar, even using a computer spreadsheet to track their relationship. Now the Lewinsky diary is part of 2 volumes of steamy American political history. Lisa Myers, NBC News, Washington.
I'll be back with more in just a moment.
Is reserved for the very young. Do you believe that? In Europe, women like us have tested a breakthrough concept in skincare. New Pro-Vital from Oil of Olay.
The healthy radiance feels like it's coming back.
These products are created especially for maturing skin. Formulas that can immediately change the look of the skin.
Now Pro-Vital from Oil of Olay is available in the U.S.
I love the feel of my skin again.
New Pro-Vital from Oil of Olay. Proven to help you look revitalized.
Dr. Scholl's next stop, San Francisco.
Let's talk about feet.
I do have corns.
I've tried Band-Aids.
They don't get rid of the corn.
This is Dr. Scholl's Cushion Gel Corn Removers.
The Cushion Gel relieves the pain.
The medicated disc removes the corn.
It just feels so much better.
Well, my work here is done.
If you're using 2 products, one to kill germs and one to shine your kitchen, it can feel like you've got 2 of everything. It doesn't have to. Introducing new Windex Antibacterial Glass and Surface Cleaner. The first antibacterial that not only kills tough germs, but leaves a streak-free Windex shine. Without the film the leading antibacterial can leave behind. So why deal with 2 unless you have to?
Mom, I'm hungry.
Try new Windex Antibacterial. It's time for a germ-free shine. S.C. Johnson.
Mother, time to scour the countryside.
My constipation keeps me up all day, drowsy all night.
Colace! When constipation keeps you from your routine, Colace will get you flying right again.
Chevy Tahoe with a Vortec engine. The most powerful SUV anywhere.
There's something about Hillary. Should she stand by her man? Why are so many women in America undecided? In-depth and only on NBC Nightly News tomorrow.
Get the most in-depth look at all the day's news with Brian Williams.
A lot to tell you about this evening, of course.
But you can't see it if you don't get it. MSNBC.
This exceptional day requires exceptional coverage. The president's more than 4 hours of testimony could, after all, very well determine the future of his presidency. And so tonight, in many cities, nightly news will continue momentarily or after a break for the local news. Other stations will be leaving us now, and I'll be back shortly.
He was their colleague, their mentor, and their friend. Now, in a very special season premiere, the cast says goodbye to Phil Hartman.
Farewell, take care of each other, and I'll see you all when you get to wherever it is that I am now.
News Radio, Wednesday on NBC.
Bill Clinton on the defense, his historic videotape testimony before the grand jury.
My goal in this deposition was to be truthful, but not particularly helpful. I did not wish to do the work of the Jones lawyers. I deplored what they were doing. I deplored the innocent people they were tormenting and traumatizing.
The White House Crisis. This special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw continues from Washington.
Good evening once again as we continue this special edition of Nightly News and the day that could determine the Clinton presidency. At the end of the day, the White House team was relieved at the initial reaction. There was nothing unexpected in the president's appearance. In fact, he may have done himself some good. We go to the White House now, and NBC's David Bloom, who's there. David?
Tom, from White House aides tonight, a collective sigh of relief. They believe the tape did not live up to its billing, that as the president was, to quote the White House, browbeat and badgered by prosecutors, he kept his cool. And tonight, as the White House tries to fend off a possible impeachment inquiry, the White House aides say that one option that is under consideration is for the president to testify under oath before the House Judiciary Committee. White House aides concede the president was at times combative.
I am not going to answer your trick questions.
At other times contrite.
I'd give anything in the world not to have to admit what I've had to admit today.
He accuses prosecutors of trying to set him up, claims Paula Jones' lawyers, when they took Mr. Clinton's deposition last January, were trying to, quote, take a wrecking ball to me.
My goal in this deposition was to be truthful, but not particularly helpful. I did not wish to do the work of the Jones lawyers. I deplored what they were doing. I deplored the innocent people they were tormenting and traumatizing. But I was determined to walk through the minefield of this deposition without violating the law, and I believe I did.
But the White House defense has shifted lately. Aides no longer assert the president told the truth. Rather, they say he does not deserve to be impeached, pointing, for example, to the rousing ovation Mr. Clinton received today as he entered the United Nations in New York. At the very moment, millions of Americans were watching his videotaped testimony.
Some people will see the president's testimony, understand much better what he has gone through personally and gone through as president, and perhaps be much more willing to accept the argument that we would make that this matter does not rise to the level of an impeachable offense.
But after watching Mr. Clinton today, a former top aide, Harold Ickes, offered a much harsher judgment that President Ickes said should have come clean.
There's an iron rule in this city. The cover-up is always worse than the crime. This underscores that iron rule.
So what does the White House do now? Well, throughout the day, the president's aides were on the phone, reaching out to elder statesmen from both political parties, trying to build a consensus short of forced resignation or presidential impeachment. But they acknowledge, so far, their efforts have been in vain. Tom?
Thanks very much, David Bloom, at the White House tonight. Ultimately, of course, the president's fate will be decided on Capitol Hill, where he'll face either impeachment or censure or great political pressure to resign. And NBC's Gwen Eiffel is there tonight. Gwen?
Good evening, Tom. Today's unprecedented video spectacle didn't change many minds here on Capitol Hill. In fact, the battle lines between Democrats and Republicans are hardening every day.
Republicans saw a president avoiding the truth, possibly even lying under oath.
I do not believe that I violated the definition of sexual relations I was given.
Charles Kennedy sits on the Judiciary Committee.
I just think he's been very evasive.
Democrats seeing the same thing say it's the prosecutor who is out of control.
I mean, I don't know why Mr. Starr felt it was necessary to include these details.
Like the rest of the country, most members of Congress saw the videotape and the new documents of Kenneth Starr's case against the president today for the first time. For differing reasons, no one seemed to like what they saw. Democrats say the prosecutor did not make his case.
I guess the bottom line is, if I have seen anything that I think fits within the definition of impeachable, I don't think so.
And they argued the president was being treated unfairly.
The rush by the House to disclose all has pressured the media, has pressured us politicians, and has pressured the public to come to judgment before the defense can present its case.
But Majority Leader Dick Armey called Mr. Clinton the, quote, artful dodger, and other Republicans agreed.
We're talking about simply getting to the truth, not playing hide the ball with the American people.
There was little question today that lawmakers who must sit in judgment on the president are waiting first for the verdict of public opinion.
That verdict will decide whether hopelessly divided lawmakers can move forward on their chief task, deciding whether to pursue impeachment. They meet Wednesday to begin to plot their course. Tom.
Thanks very much, Gwen Eiffel on Capitol Hill. Joining me now for more analysis of the president's political situation, Massachusetts Senator John Kerry, a Democrat, and Republican Congressman James Rogan from Southern California. Congressman Rogan, let me begin with you and Senator Kerry's suggestion yesterday the president ought to go before the Judiciary Committee. If the president calls in about 10 days and say, hey, I'd like to come to Capitol Hill and testify, would he be accepted as a witness?
Tom, not only would the president be accepted, I think the president would be welcome. I certainly would welcome the president, this president or any president, if they chose to come before the committee. I think that Senator Kerry probably had a good idea, although, to be honest with you, I don't think it's necessary for the president to come before the Judiciary Committee. I think it would be in this president's interest, certainly in the country's interest, if he would simply come before the American people and do, as so many Democrats and Republicans have been urging him to do, quit splitting legal hairs, talk directly to the American people, let us get to the truth so we can put this whole episode behind us.
Senator Kerry, were you at all uncomfortable with the president's definition of what constitutes sexual relations and what does not?
Sure, like every American, and I think that's part of the problem here, Tom. But I think what needs to happen, and I reiterate it, is that this is being tried now on a daily basis with the American people by selected document dump, and there's a polarizing that's taking place which takes the country nowhere. So it's my belief, notwithstanding what the congressman just said, I think that the president should indeed share with the American people, either maybe through a town meeting, maybe through a prolonged press conference in which he answers every question. But most importantly, there is an impeachment process that is already started. And so we have to make a decision in the Congress. The House has to make a decision. And what I'm trying to suggest, and I say this again, this is not for the president, this is not for a party, but for the country's sake, so that we don't have daily bombardment for our children, have to have warnings on television, so we don't go through this prolonged trial by day with document dump. Let's put all the information out there. Let's agree to a basic set of facts that the lawyers can agree on. Let the leadership of the Congress join in suggesting we are going to have an orderly, dignified process, a thoughtful process, and rapidly, I mean immediately, come to conclusion on this. Don't go home. Don't campaign. This is much more important than a campaign or than a vacation, and
Senator,
that's what we should do.
Let me try that on Congressman Rogan very briefly. Congressman, would you be willing to do that, to start the process immediately and keep everybody in Washington?
I think Senator Kerry is absolutely right on that subject. I'm one of the few members of the committee who probably has a somewhat tough race back home, and yet I think that this is so far more important to our country to get this resolved. I don't know that necessarily the entire House or the Senate has to remain, but clearly the Judiciary Committee ought to keep working. We should just forget about November the 3rd and not let that be a focus for us. We need to come to closure on this.
But let me say to the Congressman, Tom.
Senator, very quickly, if you say it very quickly, that's fine.
Just going to suggest that this is not a complicated case. Most of the facts could be agreed on. Those that are in dispute could be resolved very quickly. It doesn't take a long time.
Senator Kerry, thank you very much. Congressman Rogan, thank you very much. We know that we'll be hearing from both of you in the days and weeks to come. I'll be back in a moment. A look at what the president was actually doing today. Warnings about terrorism at the United Nations. And we'll also have the rest of the day's news.
I have the cleanest and nicest smelling toilet in the neighborhood.
Since I started using Vanish hang-ins, the toilet bowls stay completely clean. The fact that it delivers bleach to the bowl is terrific.
My scrubbing days are over.
Real easy to use.
Drop the tablet in the dispenser, hang it on the side of the tank.
Boom, you're done.
Vanish hang-ins deliver more bleach to your bowl than Clorox.
There's no stains.
No scrubbing. No rings, like magic. Ta-da!
Vanish hang-ins. More bleach to the bowl.
If anybody doesn't believe me, ring my doorbell and you can smell my toilet.
When your allergies are a nightmare, you need fast relief.
You need the power of Zyrtec. Prescription Zyrtec starts working fast and lasts 24 hours. So when allergies are a nightmare, remember the power of Zyrtec. In studies, drowsiness was the most common side effect. Other side effects included fatigue and dry mouth. Most were mild or moderate. To learn more, ask your doctor or pharmacist.
The producers of Frasier have won for Best Comedy 5 years in a row. What did they do for an encore?
I'm home!
Nathan Lane stars in Encore, NBC Tuesday.
Dateline Monday. If you haven't seen the tape of the president's secret grand jury testimony,
I'm not going to answer your trick questions.
watch Dateline and see it for the very first time.
I never asked Ms. Lewinsky to lie.
Plus, what's in those thousands of pages of secret documents and results of our exclusive NBC News poll. Dateline Monday on NBC. In today's world,
there's so much turmoil now.
How do you get the information you need? Tom Brokaw and NBC Nightly News, America's news leader.
The critics are singing the praises of Will and Grace. Quite literally.
It's just plain funny, screamingly funny. Yes, it's appealing, refreshing, with great buzz. You shouldn't miss it. It's feel good. That's because it's sharp and sweet and crisp and quick, a quality buzz.
Ha, 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 ha.
A virtuoso performance that's perfect.
Let's touch stomachs.
You are a complete freak.
So take a peek, the show you'll see. Will and Grace, tonight on NBC.
As the president's image flickered on televisions across the nation, he was also standing front and center at the United Nations today, talking about what he called a threat to all humankind, international terrorism. More on that now from NBC's Andrea Mitchell.
The leader of the free world, live at the United Nations on the war against terrorism.
Terrorism is not fading away.
While at the same time, an almost surreal coincidence, the leader of the free world also on videotape.
Did I want this to come out? No. Was I embarrassed about it? Yes.
The president on tape overwhelming his speech to the UN today about what he calls the new face of terror.
The new technologies of terror and their increasing availability, along with the increasing mobility of terrorists, raise chilling prospects of vulnerability.
If terror in the 90s has a face, this is it. Osama bin Laden, born in Saudi Arabia, now hiding in Afghanistan.
He has represented the most serious terrorist threat to the United States in this decade.
Bin Laden's latest strikes, the U.S. says, both embassy bombings in Africa last month. So feared, the CIA created a special unit within its counterterrorism center focused solely on bringing him to justice. There has been some recent success. In this small town in Germany, the U.S. helped police arrest a man suspected of being a key bin Laden lieutenant last week. And in this country, an Arlington, Texas man who works at this tire store was arrested. The FBI says he was once bin Laden's personal secretary. But the main target is elusive. Intelligence officials tell NBC News bin Laden now operates in 60 countries, may have been behind the threats that closed the U.S. Embassy in Uganda last week, and still remains one step ahead of the FBI and the CIA. So the U.S. remains on high alert at home and abroad, bracing for what officials say is inevitable, Osama bin Laden's next strike. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
In the Caribbean tonight, forecasters say that Hurricane George remains extremely dangerous after slamming into the island of St. Croix. George is now steaming westward toward Puerto Rico. It's already feeling the impact of the hurricane's 110-mile-an-hour winds. A state of emergency has been declared in Puerto Rico. Thousands are leaving their homes seeking safety in shelters. One of this country's most successful and flamboyant Olympic athletes, Florence Griffith Joyner, died suddenly today in Southern California of a heart seizure. She was one of the greatest sprinters the world has ever seen, with her long nails and colorful running outfits and the affectionate nickname FloJo. More now from NBC's George Lewis.
There was no one else quite like FloJo, on or off the track. No one who could match her world record times in the 100 and 200-meter sprints. No one who could match her sense of style. Only Florence Griffith Joyner, with her 6-inch nails and unique running outfits, could turn a foot race into a fashion statement. Her sudden death this morning left many people wondering about her health.
There was no indication at all of her being sick, and if it was, we would have known about it.
But there may have been warning signs. Griffith Joyner had a seizure and collapsed 2 years ago on a plane flight. a problem she later attributed to stress.
Lift for 2 and down for 2.
She was on the President's Physical Fitness Council, which made her death even more shocking. She leaves behind her husband Al Joyner, who was her coach at the 1988 Olympic Games, and their 7-year-old daughter, Mary Ruth. She was often asked how she felt about being a role model to other children.
I look at young girls, and they tell me all the time they want to be just like me. And what I say to that is, say you don't want to be just like me. Say you want to be better than me.
Tonight, the flags at U.S. Olympic headquarters fly at half-staff in honor of a woman whose life was short, but whose impact on the Games will last a very long time. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
On Wall Street today, the Dow had a bad case of early jitters over the president's videotape. It dropped almost 185 points, but early rumors of what was on that tape were overtaken by a calmer reality as the day went on. Then the rebound. The Dow finished up 37.5 points. NASDAQ was up as well 16.5 points. When we come back, more disclosures from the Star Files released today about the young woman at the center of all of this, Monica Lewinsky.
When it comes to your health, never compromise, even when choosing a laxative. You need one that's strong enough to work overnight, but also gentle. Try doctor-recommended Dulcolax. It's both strong and gentle. It even has a special comfort coating to protect your stomach. In fact, doctors recommend Dulcolax most, more than Correctol and Senecot combined. Don't compromise. Get strong, get gentle, get doctor-recommended Dulcolax. And for strong and gentle relief in minutes, get Dulcolax suppositories.
You see a business deal. At Sprint, we see data. Data that lays the groundwork, that allows people to collaborate. It's the sharing of information that helps build business. And with Sprint Ion, our integrated on-demand network, we'll soon be linked together with even greater ease, flexibility, and power. Because business runs on data, and data runs on Sprint.
Law & Order's new DA takes no prisoners.
Arresting a 7-year-old kid for murder?
A startling season premiere.
Let's hang them all.
Law & Order, NBC Wednesday. Last year, it began live. This year, it will blow you away.
Come on, out of the way.
It happens just once a year. Now, a countdown has begun.
Welcome to County General.
To the television event America's been waiting for.
Gas covered in dynamite.
The clock is ticking.
That black box of bomb.
Time is running out until
2,000, 3,000, 4,000. Let's go now, now!
An all-new season of ER begins Thursday on NBC.
They're here, the must-see TV Thursday premieres.
I'm Ross. Take thee, Rachel.
The Friends wedding conclusion.
Could have been worse. He could have shot her.
Then Jesse from the creators of Friends. Starring Christina Applegate. And Frasier premieres. With 5 straight Best Comedy Emmys, why is Frasier unemployed?
You're not famous anymore.
Veronica making a good impression on the new boss.
Still working on the dismount?
Plus the premiere of ER, NBC Thursday.
Perhaps the most compelling disclosures of this day were about Monica Lewinsky. Most Americans have never even heard her voice, but tonight, as NBC's Bob Fall reports, we do have a better picture of the young woman who's at the heart of the scandal.
In the new photographs, in the new testimony, we learned much more about Monica Lewinsky.
She's basically a good girl. She's a good young woman with a good heart and a good mind.
We learned she was girlish, that she didn't keep that blue dress as a souvenir, telling prosecutors she was, quote, going to clean it and wear it again, but didn't because she'd put on weight and the dress didn't fit. She was driven, fretted constantly whether her Washington experience would tarnish her job prospects, and she was calculating with computer software. She kept records of her relationship with the president. To her critics, it's the portrait of a harlot.
Monica Lewinsky's behavior was unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. There were no excuses.
Mostly, though, the new details show Monica Lewinsky was in love, combined with what she calls a little bit of obsession. She wrote Mr. Clinton, I loved you with all my heart, Bill. You were in my soul. To quote your famous cliche, I felt your pain. In another letter, she told him she'd seen, quote, that raw, intense sexuality while you explored the depth of my sex. Though she admitted she felt cheap when she performed sex on him as he talked on the phone. That when she saw a picture of him dancing with his wife, she felt, quote, peeved, annoyed, jealous. And that she was hurt when the president told the nation it was only oral sex. Lewinsky told the grand jury, quote, it was a lot more than that to me. By then, though, Lewinsky tells prosecutors she's on antidepressants, that she worries she might end up like Mary Jo Kopechne or Marilyn Monroe, and concludes, quote, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry for everything that's happened. And then, says the report, Monica Lewinsky starts to cry.
When there's instant communication all over the world, where are you going to live? Where are you going to hide? There's no such thing as hiding anymore.
New information, new photographs, and new grist for Americans still debating whether she was predator, prey, or both. Bob Fall, NBC News, Washington.
One footnote to all this, from this transcript of Lewinsky's final appearance before the Starr grand jury released today. The session ended with several of the jurors telling Ms. Lewinsky she needs to move on. And then they left her with, and we're quoting here, the foreperson of the grand jury, what they called a bouquet of good wishes that includes luck, success, happiness, and blessings. When we come back, 3 different views of this historic day. What does it all mean? What happens next?
It's coming. And this time there's something new. Now there's a wind tunnel by Hoover that's self-propelled, so it almost works by itself. Tests show wind tunnel picks up more dirt than any other clean air upright. Hoover, nobody. And now you can get one that's self-propelled. Like self-propelled wind tunnel.
Parenting is a constant learning process. What you have to do is prioritize.
Back in '88, Earl wanted to retire, spend more time with Tiger.
My dad taught me.
I met an American Express financial advisor. Dave is a personal friend of mine to this day. We trust each other because we got a track record.
It's about making smarter decisions.
We're a team, and that's when dreams can happen.
American Express Financial Advisors.
Frasier wins an unprecedented 5th Emmy for Best Comedy. So why is he unemployed? Find out when Frasier premieres on its new day, NBC Thursday.
This fall, NBC Original Motion Pictures presents a season of movies like no other. From David Wolper, producer of Roots, comes A Will of Their Own, with an all-star cast in a saga spanning 5 generations of love, power, and betrayal.
You're going to get very interested in this family.
From Linda Obst, executive producer of Sleepless in Seattle, comes The 60s.
NBC reaches the largest audience in America, and in order for America to explore its roots, it has to be seen on NBC.
From the producer of Lonesome Dove, learn the story behind the music, The Temptations. From the man who brought you Gulliver's Travels and Merlin, Emmy Award winner Robert Hawley is back, producing 3 more classics for NBC. First, an all-star cast was assembled to bring Alice in Wonderland to life. Then Ben Kingsley stars in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. And John Voight sets sail on the greatest voyage of all time in Noah's Ark.
It will be the biggest thing ever done for television.
The best movies on television are on NBC.
Joining me now for more on what the president is facing politically and historically in terms of his legacy is author and presidential historian and NBC News consultant Doris Kearns Goodwin. Ms. Goodwin, is the president trapped somewhere in no man's land now between his past and his uncertain future?
Well, you know, it does feel like we're on a train that's speeding to some place that we don't want to go and that we don't know quite how to get off it, and I think only the president can take us off it. I don't think his video testimony today either speeds up or slows down that process. Only, I think, by coming absolutely clean so that we don't have a process of Congress that's going to figure out where is he telling the truth, where is he not, which will go on long, long, long. Time is not on his side, either for this process to be resolved or for his legacy to go where he wants it to go. I think the time has come for him to take the initiative now, be the character that stops this train.
Even if he does something dramatic, do you think that he can repair his legacy in terms of history's long view?
Well, I think it's always going to be hard for this thing to not be considered a large part of his presidency. But Ronald Reagan was in great trouble in that last year and a half before his presidency came to an end. He, too, had to apologize to the American public for Iran-Contra. And then world events, the whole Russian situation, gave him another shot. So if Clinton at least can take that chance and come clean before us now, he might have another shot. Otherwise, this thing dribbles out to the end of his presidency, and it's over.
Is there a danger that independent counsels and Republicans, especially on Capitol Hill, are too eager to get this president and they've gone too far with the case they've made against him?
Oh, I think there's no question that the public is uneasy with the whole role of the independent counsel, and my hope is that in the future, one remedy we take from this whole mess, which no one is happy to be in, is that we put limits on that counsel. And it may be that the more sex they dump upon us, the more people keep that private dichotomy. It's mostly about sex. To the extent they feel it's affecting his effectiveness as president, then he's going to be in trouble. They may think the only way to get off this speeding train is for him to be willing to take himself off.
Thank you very much, Doris Kearns Goodwin, tonight. I'll be back with some final thoughts right after this.
In clinical studies, a leading pain medicine significantly reduced minor arthritis pain, increasing range of motion and flexibility. You may be surprised. The medicine in these studies wasn't a pill. It was Bengay. And now, when you use ultra-strength Bengay for your aches and pains, you get the heating power of 3 pain relievers to help you feel better and move better. Ultra Strength Bengay, medicine for your moving parts.
Recently, we flew Carrie Eisenhandler and her family to Johns Hopkins for surgery to correct a pre-existing heart condition. We flew Eric Gonzalez to the Cleveland Clinic because of their renowned expertise in treating Crohn's disease. Hopefully, these stories fly in the face of the belief that healthcare isn't what it used to be. We're Aetna U.S. Healthcare, raising the quality of healthcare in America.
There's something about Hillary. Should she stand by her man? Why are so many women in America undecided? In depth and only on NBC Nightly News tomorrow.
Are you ready?
It's coming! NBC Premiere Week. Tonight, your favorite NBC shows are back.
All your questions will be answered.
Is there going to be a wedding on Friends?
Find out during premiere week.
Frasier has a new night.
And Just Shoot Me's moving to Tuesday.
But wait, there's more!
Meet the next generation of must-see TV. ER's back, all new. And Monday nights are really heating up.
NBC Premiere Week.
Tonight.
NBC Premiere Week and all new Law & Order.
These people callously and deliberately abandoned a sick little girl.
And adoption goes horribly wrong.
We didn't mean for her to die.
And it's going to take a new DA and some new ideas about justice
I may be the new kid here, but to me, this sounds like murder.
to put them away.
That sorry excuse for a woman has a hole in her soul.
She was going to die anyway.
No deals for anybody. Let's hang them all.
The Law & Order season premiere, NBC Wednesday.
If there is a common public voice in the Monica Lewinsky scandal, it is saying, please get this over with. But in fact, it is just now entering the critical stage when it will be determined whether Bill Clinton keeps his job as president or is forced to leave, and under what circumstances. Judging from what we have heard so far and what we have been exposed to in language and description, the difficult days ahead would be well served by 2 elements missing up to this point: a viable political center to serve as a common ground for the extremes, and a little discretion to serve as a substitute for the feeding frenzy in a debate of this magnitude. These are sobering times, big questions. It should not be politics as usual. That's our special edition of NBC Nightly News. Later tonight on Dateline, a first look at how the nation reacts to the president's testimony. That's Dateline tonight at 10, 9 Central. And of course, more coverage all night on MSNBC. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you back here on Nightly News tomorrow night.
NBC